And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. I can tell you that it has been a crazy week. Monday really couldn't do a show, and then kind of came into Tuesday. Dallas was playing yesterday. We probably should have done a show instead of watching that shit show of a situation the Dallas Cowboys gave us. I think their defense may be the worst in all of college football at this particular point. Not the NFL, but college football. And then obviously the men's basketball is playing right now. They're playing Texas State Bobcats. They're in Austin. And they got a big game Saturday with number 2 Baylor Bears. And I actually heard them talking about Baylor in the, I want to say it was the Duke game last night. Because I think, who was it? They were playing Illinois, I think, was who Duke was playing.
I don't know. I was watching.
Yeah, I think
defense you just referred to.
I think they played Illinois, and I think Baylor is the only one that's beat them at this particular point. They're ranked number 6 in the nation. They said that Baylor team is crazy good. But hey, good evening to all of y'all, man. To really start, might as well start with what's going on, man, on the 40 acres. What I've learned this week is that you have a lot of sources. Lots and lots of sources. The media guys that own these paid sites are sources. Everyone on Twitter, it seems like, is a source to the information. And you don't know which way to go on a lot of these really coaching turns. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk about some of these guys that may have turned us down, may have not turned us down, and kind of see where we're going. So,
yeah. So, in commemoration of the Maui Invitational, I do have my Maui Invitational Championship T-shirt on. Like Clint said, the basketball team is currently playing against Texas State in what could be known as a trap game, playing Villanova on Sunday, and then having Baylor this weekend as the number 2 team in the country. Again, athletic basketball team. Played a hell of a game against Villanova. Came a couple of points short. That team is very experienced, just like ours. Have played in big games. So looking for big things out of this basketball team this weekend. Again, playing Baylor on the road, the number 2 team in the country. But like Clint said, let's get after what we don't know anything about, to be honest with you. Like Clint said, there's multiple sources out there. We get DMs sent to us about timelines and this guy and that guy. And why the decision hasn't been made. What we can tell you is nobody's definitively come out and said the current head coach is going to be the head coach for next year. And nobody's definitively come out who's on the list and said themselves that they're not interested in the job, as far as we know. So without further ado, I guess we'll let these guys lead this chat because they know as much as we know. And again, like you said, it's a bunch of rumors, a bunch of sources, a bunch of thoughts. But nothing solidified just at this point.
So let's start with the downward spiral first, really, and I think that started Sunday night with the Urban Meyer news coming out. People coming out saying, well, Urban Meyer has decided to not take the Texas job because of health issues. All right, yeah, everybody kind of knew that health issue was going to be one of the key things to him coaching. My takeaway from that is, and with a lot of these guys, is that the team that he really respects and he loves, Ohio State University, is currently, as of today, because of the changes the Big Ten made, are currently in a national championship race. His son-in-law happens to be a quarterback coach for that team. The guys he wants to bring, that he would bring in that core 4, are part of that team. If I'm a coach like Urban Meyer, I'm going to ensure that I'm not doing anything that's going to cause disruption to what they're currently doing and their chances of going to a college football playoff. Why would you do that? He's the one that got Ryan Day that job. Those guys that are currently on that staff belong to him. Again, his son is the quarterback's coach there. So it to me, it comes down to disruption. It kind of goes hand in hand with Dan Mullen. Another report came out that Dan Mullen said he is 0% in on UT. Go ahead, Jeremy. Before I get in.
Before we move on to Dan Mullen, just picture this. Like you said, And we've been sent some stuff, and some stuff chronologically makes sense to us. Like, what is the net gain for let's say we play the Kansas game on what would be the 12th of the month? There's no net gain that we see in this 2020 class that firing Tom Herman and bringing Urban Meyer on would allow the 2020 class to get. We don't see any flips that they could possibly get. Because again, he's not going to put those relationships in danger. He's going to be professional about it. He's not trying to, like you said, cause any rumors or things to hurt their program in their national championship run. Now, if the Big Ten would have decided a different way today and they wouldn't have been eligible for that, then maybe news does start to trickle out. But again, you got sources saying that he's not coming for health reasons. They may or may not be correct. What I know is he's had plenty of opportunity to come out and say, I don't want the job. And him himself has not done that. You have not seen CDC come out and say that it is Tom Herman's job. Again, you got folks out there saying Dan Mullen's not coming. I know we get sent, and until it's solidified, we're not ever going to come on air and talk about it. That same thing with recruiting commitments. Like from the day one, guys send us, hey, I think this guy's going to recruit. I think this guy's going to decommit. And until they make that announcement, we never made that announcement for those kids. And until we know something's solidified, do we get DMs that tell us certain things are happening that I believe and make sense to me? Absolutely. But until it's set in stone, you're not going to hear it on these airwaves.
Absolutely not. And people are talking about CDC not saying anything. CDC really couldn't say anything at this particular point anytime. I think the less that CDC says, the better, to be honest with you. Somebody said, well, to me, one thing the CDC has not done, and that's come out publicly and wrapped his arm around Tom Herman and said, hey, Tom Herman is my guy moving forward in 2021. Right. So these people that keep saying that Tom Herman's the guy and saying that, and I think this is what irks me a little bit too, that they say, if you can't get over Meyer, there's no other better coaches than Tom Herman out there. So you're telling me that between 1 and 20, that Urban Meyer sits at number 1 and that Tom Herman sits at number 2. So if I was to give you 10 coaches and you were to line them up, right? 10 coaches across college football, right? And I was to say, okay, give me 1 through 10. You can't tell me that somebody's listening to this right now saying there's Urban Meyer and then there's Tom Herman. Because that's what you consistently hear. If you can't get Urban Meyer, Tom Herman needs to stay. Who's number 2? Who's number 3? Who's number 4? Who's number 5? What Chris Del Conte did, he shot his shot like he should have. Yeah. Do I think the optics are crazy? Do I think the optics? Absolutely. It's funnier and funnier and funnier on Twitter every day. It's going down this rabbit hole of, well, this guy's out. Getting to this, it kind of moving away from Urban Meyer and getting to this Dan Mullen thing. You know, somebody came back and said, you know, there's zero. Dan Mullen came out and said there's 0% chance he would come to Texas. Dan Mullen has the number 6 ranked team in the nation right now. Why would he come out in public and state, I've been asked about the University of Texas. Let me give it some thought, and I will get back with you, or I'll give me some thought. What coach that has his team in for a national championship, to include Brian Kelly and all these guys, why would you even ask those questions? And why would they answer?
Because Urban Meyer's already told you that Florida fan base is rabid, just like Ohio State, just like Texas. If he says he's interested in the Texas job while they're the number 6 team in the country about ready to play in an SEC championship game against Alabama on the 19th of December, what else would he say? Just like Tom Herman told Houston that he wasn't interested in the Texas job, and the next day you see him taking the job. They're going to say that kind of stuff because, again, what net gain do they have to say they're interested? You know, to disrupt their current players, their current coaches, their current fan base, themselves as they prepare to play a SEC championship game in a couple of weeks. You know, and like you said, a chance to play for the CFP if they would somehow beat Alabama. They're in and playing for a national championship. So why would he say, yes, I'm interested in the Texas job in the heat of a national championship run? The same thing. Ryan Day's not going to say that. Dabo Swinney's not going to say that. Or Nick Saban's not going to say that. None of those guys. Jimbo Fisher's not going to say that. And that top 6 or 7 who still believe they have a chance. Matt Campbell, same thing. He's 7. He's on the outside looking in. So things have to happen for him to make it in that Final Four. But why would you go out and disenfranchise your players, your other coaches, your fan base by saying, yeah, I'm currently coaching this team who's in the top 6 or 7 in the nation and playing for a CFP, but I'm interested in another job. They'd be outside their mind to do that. Even if they felt differently, they would still be crazy to say it.
And somebody brings up recruiting here, and they're recruiting at this particular point is not going to matter. The changes that are happening between now and December 16th aren't a big deal. If you get into January, you have an opportunity to flip someone that's going to late National Signing Day. Somebody in there asked us to talk about realistic candidates. I don't know what a realistic candidate is at this particular point in time. What is a realistic candidate? One where we seen a signed contract on a dotted line that CDC brought in and they're doing a press conference. That's a realistic candidate at this particular point. Me and Jeremy think that individual needs to have Power 5 coaching experience, had multiple chances at winning a a conference championship, and had a college football championship, had been to the college football championship or had his team in a running to get to a college football championship. And those guys are very, very few in between. They are. So my question is, if you can't get those first through 1, 5, 6, 7, do you try to get a guy in it's crazy how stuff happens. And I don't know if there's any fire to it or not. You start talking about Traylor, East Texas guy, Gilmer High School, now current coach at UTSA, happy to coach for the University of Texas. Do I think he's a Texas guy? Yeah. Do I think he'll do good recruiting here? But do you take a shot at bringing someone in like him and starting your program back over when you don't know if they're going to give him the time like we have now?
That's a question for them. Like I said, I'm watching the comments, and I'm seeing folks say who you can't get. Again, I'm not going to, like you said, not going to disqualify anybody. Do I think Jeff Traylor brings the credibility? Again, we've been on record as saying we believe that they got to come from a Power 5 conference. They have had to have won championships in their conference to bring a fan base and recruitment back up. But folks are saying you're going to lose 2 years if you don't bring Urban. Well, I think you've lost 2 years of recruiting if you bring back Tom Herman, because everybody in the 2022 class is already decommitted, and the 2021 class is already set in stone, and you got several of those kids have already decommitted. At this point, I really am not – I'm not saying we're not stuck with the status quo, because, again, we don't make those decisions. Clint and Jeremy are not writing a $25 million, $15 million buyout of whatever the number is. If it's just Tom Herman, I think it's 15. If it's Tom Herman as assistant, it's 25. We're not writing those checks. So for me to say that I think that the thing is going to go a certain way, nobody knows, man. Again, I think we have more people feeding us information than most of the guys on this chat. But again, we're not willing and ready to say anything because we're not going to embarrass ourselves. Credibility means everything. Until we know, like you said, we're not going to put it on air. But your guess is as good as mine. And do I think Jeff Traylor is an excellent football coach who knows the climate in the state of Texas as far as high school, coaches? And does he have a lot of relationships? Absolutely. Do I think at this point, after 10 years of struggles, the last Big 12 championship being in 2009, I don't know. I really don't know, because you don't have a whole lot of time. And the problem is because you have the number 5 blue chip ratio roster on this campus. And so if you're not going to accept it for Tom Herman, how you can't accept it for anybody else. And the only way I think it's going to change, the 17th, and we've had a lot of these kids on our show, but they're the 17th rated class. I don't know. I bantered about it. I talked a lot to say that nobody knows what's going to happen. Again, we know the facts, and the facts are Tom Herman is currently the head football coach, and like somebody said earlier, you can't really say that you're going to take a job that somebody's currently holding. And I think I don't know who it was.
I think there's legalities. I think there's legalities behind that because it's a public institution.
Right. Nate Randolph said.
That's what I'm saying.
I said it earlier, but
yeah,
nothing could happen until he gets fired. So it's all like you said on Twitter. Everybody has a coach. Everybody has a source. We've had multiple coaches and multiple sources that have been fed to us this week, and we don't have any skin in the game. Again, it's not our 25 million or 15 million that's gonna have to even pave the way for that coach to get here. So we're not cheerleading either way. What we do want is to win, and we that's why we're so passionate. It's because we want to win. So we want to, whatever coach the administration believes could come in here and turn this program, the number 5 blue chip ratio, into a champion, because we thought it was going to happen this year and it didn't. And if you guys have watched our shows, we feel like we've led you down a path to understand why we think it hasn't happened, especially with the Iowa State game. But yeah, man.
So Sean Allen says no one else is proven, but is Tom Herman proven?
No.
And do you see what you get consistently from him? So my question is, the optics are so bad right now with Tom Herman. To me, it's how do you bring it back as your head coach next year? I was about to say that it doesn't matter who the head coach is for the Texas Longhorns next week. Texas Football Talk will be doing the same shows, or next year. We'll be doing the same shows next year, regardless of who the coach is, cheering on the same guys that are playing on this team. But I think you're going to have, if you don't get someone that everybody wants, which is not going to happen. Somebody said it best on Twitter today. Everybody's going to be angry. They're going to be angry with the coach if it's not the one that you wanted. And it's like we're going to go back down that same road we went with Charlie Strong. But is Tom Herman proven? To me, he's not proven. He's 0-6 to TCU, Iowa State, and Oklahoma. Actually, Iowa State, Texas. No, who was it? Iowa State, TCU, maybe Oklahoma. It was 0-6 over the last 2 years to those teams, which is crazy.
Said it perfectly. Even with the number 17 class, you should still be able to win a Big 12 championship, because Iowa State is playing on that joker this year, and they don't have one. And that's what I would say to those Tom Herman, keep him around. It's like you said, he hasn't won a championship. He's won a Sugar Bowl in his second year, and that team has regressed. And what I will tell you is, I think like coaches are naming that are Power 5 credibility. Again, they haven't been offered the job. I think one man's been offered the job, but again, he's not going to take it at this point because of the peripheral, what impact that it could have if he was to take it at this time and date. But I just believe that this current coach spoiled your chance to compete for a Big 12 championship for the first time since 2018 with bad coaching decisions they made against Iowa State. And if you want more evidence of that, go back and watch our Iowa State postgame show. Go back and watch our.
And I think I lost Jeremy, but that's okay. So I'll finish it up. And let me see if I can dial him back in here. And then we'll go from there, man. But yeah, I think I'm on here by myself. I just want to kind of go through some of these questions here. Maybe he'll call back in, and then we'll get him on the line and then kind of finish kind of where we're going here. But I think I lost Jeremy. He got pretty bad at one particular point. But I just want to kind of go down here. You know, Cody Phillips is talking about, I get it, JB, man. You spent $55 million on coach change since 2013. When are we going to stop eating our own and start building something? Again, it's the optics behind it. I will be the first one to tell you it's not really the losses. It's the way that Tom Herman goes about his business and his attitude. You know, it's one thing to lose games, but when you lose the fan base because of the way that you act is a problem. And I'll go back to Charlie Strong. I like Charlie Strong, and it actually felt worse relieving Charlie Strong after his 3 losing seasons than it does in this situation right now. Kind of going down here, Angus Cat talking, we had more losing seasons in the last 10 years than we've had Big 12 championships. Unacceptable. Absolutely. Sean Allen, I agree with you, man. The last 50 years, we've talked about this on multiple lives, multiple podcasts we've done. Where does the sense of entitlement come from? When you're talking about between 1970 or really 1970, your 50 years, you're talking about in 2020, you've had 10 good years. And those 10 good years were under Mac Brown. They started going downhill, and we've been going down that same hill for a long time. But it's just kind of where we're at right now, man, as a program. And when will it stop, man? It's the inconsistencies in coaching right now. You know, you have what should be the top 5 best class in the nation, and you either play down to the level of competition or you don't, or he doesn't have his team ready to play. Andy Arena, Matt Campbell said he don't want the Texas job. He's holding out for Notre Dame in the Ohio State University. Absolutely. Those coaches aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Ryan Day, I think he's probably maybe just a little bit over 40. And if Brian Kelly's not leaving, people are talking about Brian Kelly wouldn't come here. Why would he leave Notre Dame? There's chat out there that he may try to take on a head coaching position at some point. So let me get this text message for Jeremy and see if I need to get him back on here. So we'll get him back on here. He could probably dial me in at some particular point, or I can dial him in. Let me see if I can get him on here. See if I can get him on here, and then we'll kind of go from there. Josh Hadley, CDC has 3 weeks to research and vet potential candidates. I do not see Herman back for 21. Again, it's going to be a slow roll, man. There's going to be so many names that come up. There's going to be so much. The narrative changes, and you don't think that these guys don't leak things on purpose to either get a better contract from their current team or where they're at to get a better contract. Then it's kind of where we're at. But really, like you said, CDC, and I trust CDC and where he's at with the coaches that he's hired previously to the University of Texas over the last couple of years. I think he will find us the right guy. And if he thinks that Tom Herman needs to stick around and be the next coach, then kind of where we're at. Like I said, our minds, we're going to continue to do the show regardless if Tom Herman's sitting in the seat or if there's another coach that happens to join the University of Texas as their college football coach. Clemson Savage, hey, 247 did a poll. Me and Jeremy were actually talking about it. 247 did a poll this week, and they were asking who should be the next coach, and nobody put our name in the hat for that. We'd appreciated that if we would have at least got one vote, but unfortunately, we didn't get any votes. It sounds like Jeff Traylor got all those votes from that poll that 247 ran. Kind of going down y'all's questions here. Walt talking about if Herman wasn't the man, we wouldn't be having this discussion 4 years in. He needs to go. I was on the Herman wagon until this year. And so were we. If you go back and listen to, I think one of our first, is Tom Herman on the hot seat coming into this year. You would have seen that me and Jeremy, probably Jeremy more than I, had him staying just because of the current situation, COVID, and bringing in two coordinators. But you sense that he may have met his ceiling. I think that's kind of where we're at, man, is what's the floor and what's the ceiling? And I think Tom Herman right now is an average 8-win coach at the most. It took him 14 games to get to 10 wins. So it's kind of I think his ceiling is really eight games at the most with Tom Herman, which is not going to get you to a Big 12 championship. And if you're playing, trying to get to a Big 12 championship, and that's what we kind of got to ask ourselves: is Tom Herman going to get you? Is he that guy that's going to get you to that Big 12 championship? Is he that guy that's going to get you down the road to give you an opportunity to play for a national championship? So. Right now, Johnny Munoz asking, what bowl game do you think our Longhorns will play in? I heard the Cheez-It Bowl, but I think it's kind of all up in the air. It's how many. Really, I think it's too early. I think you may see these other bowl games. If this COVID stuff stays on the rise, you may see some of these other bowl games decide to call it, and it'll be minimizing how many bowl games you actually play going forward. And getting to that, obviously Texas is dealing with a COVID issue this week. Supposed to go to Kansas, supposed to go to Kansas this week to Lawrence. We'll see what happens. It's Wednesday. I think they tried to start team activities today. I think they had what may have been 2 or 3 COVID positives today. So we'll kind of see where they're at. To me, do I see them playing Kansas on Saturday? I would probably put it at 70% they don't, 30% they do. And I think that will move up the timeline a little bit. But you got to understand, I don't think CDC is going to pull the plug on Tom Herman until he has an opportunity to vet what coaches he wants to come in here if that's what he decides to do with Tom Herman. So, Joe Brady, everybody's talking Joe Brady. I just don't know if Joe Brady is going to leave the NFL, and what skins on the walls does he have, as far as being head coach experience. And guess who we got back, man? So kind of just talking Joe Brady. Jeremy, your thoughts on Joe Brady at this particular point? Got to get the volume back here. There it is. Now? Got you now. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we're back on.
Yeah, Joe Brady. Okay. So I wasn't prepared for that. Just trying to get the set back up. I'm still Colleen on the thing. No, Joe Brady. We talked about him last show, I think, and how he had moved from what would have been the Saints to LSU to Carolina, and this will be a fourth move in 4 years. That's a question, and I really didn't think about when we brought it up. I was listening to Bucky Godbolt and Aaron Hogan on 104.9, and Bucky was a coach. And Bucky's like, that comes with standard practice, moving around year to year to year. So loved him, loved his game plan at LSU. Fantastic young mind. I think you're looking at maybe like a Lincoln Riley starter kit, maybe a Matt Campbell starter kit, young coach. Been in the college game and the pro game, so can bring a lot of expertise into the program. But I just don't know that he will be willing to move for the fourth time in 4 years. Just my thoughts. And I'm going to shut this door real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of now I'm on the opposite side of the screen. I flipped to the other side of the screen. Andy Arena, Greg Biggins said, if Notre Dame offers Jaden, they will be tough to beat. Adams Apple says, what's up to Colleen? Green Valley 6. Our plan C, what can we do with letting Mike run the offense and another quarterback besides Sam is Shane, great non-Power 5 quarterback, but can't be a championship Power 5 no matter who he plays for. And I honestly, I've kind of went back and forth with this over the last couple of days, in a sense of Sam Ehlinger, 4 years on the 40 acres, he gave you what he had. And I don't know if he definitely doesn't have the arm talent or the athletic skill that these other guys have. And I keep teetering back on that, thinking that if Herman had someone, or Mike Yurcich had someone with that arm talent and those athletic skills with those other guys surrounded around him, would it make a difference? But then you got to go back and say, well, you got 4 years out of Sam Ehlinger. Now you got a redshirt freshman or a redshirt senior in Casey Thompson that's going to be starting your offense for the first time. What are the chances of us getting to that point again?
Again, like I said, I don't want to point fingers, but again, I think we talked about this on the Kansas State postgame. And kind of me and Rod Davis talked about it today. It took you 9 games to find your freshman running back. It took you 9 games to figure out what Sam does well, and that's not throwing the deep ball, the 50-50 ball to Brennan Eagles down the field to Josh Moore. It's getting the ball out of his hands on a 2-step, 3-step drop and let those running backs eat. Again, you took too long to find the linemen that needed to be in places where they needed to be. You took too long in understanding your depth chart and the abilities of number 2 and number 5, and getting the ball out of Sam's hands. You didn't have to run him in this football game it's against Kansas State. But I think the game plan they had in game 9 should have been the game plan they had in game 1. It would have definitely benefited Sam and his draft stock going forward, to be honest with you.
So I've never been asked this before, so we're gonna step away real quick and we're gonna talk about Clint's photos behind him.
Yeah.
87. What are those pics behind you? So if you go to Clint Lockaby at Instagram.com. Go to Clint Lockaby on Instagram. I don't know. I said .com. Clint Lockaby at Instagram. You'll see. I'm into photography. Currently working actually on a tabletop book. But yeah, these are photographs I take. I do black and white photos. This one was taken in a museum in Korea. This is I spent 1 year in Korea. This is an actual tram. subway line in Korea as well. And then this one, believe it or not, is an actual. It's outside of an army installation. During the Korean War, there was actually this bar, and it says "Welcome to Texas," and it's called the Texas Bar. This was on a subway line, and I know y'all can't see them really well, but if you go to my Instagram page, you can kind of just scroll through those black and white photos I currently have on there. But
the best photo Clint has. Am I on Instagram on the park bench?
You are, yeah.
The best. Me and Clint were lucky enough to be in Korea together for 4 years? I'm sorry, 4 months before you retired. And I served a year there. He served a year there. And there was some crossover. And so again, we didn't spend over the last 20 years. We're just talking about us real quick. Probably a month together, because we were both in the military in different installations. We do holidays together. But it's the first time that we'd ever been stationed together. We were stationed together at Fort Hood, but again, it was like a 6-month or Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio. But it was like a 6-month crossover. Same thing in Korea, 6-month crossover. But hadn't really. So his love of photography, I didn't know anything about. He's like, "Hey, you want to go up to Seoul and backpack and take pictures?" And he let me, be the centerpiece in a couple. And how talented he is, yeah. So please go check out his site. Like you said, his Instagram page, like his Instagram page. He does really, really good stuff. Like he is definitely the creative one out of the two of us, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, it's a passion of mine, and I tell people all the time, since I retired from the military, I've had an opportunity to do a couple of passion projects, this one and take photos outside of my regularly scheduled job. But I appreciate you asking about those. There's not a lot to do it. We haven't actually had it asked on here before. So about these questions about these coaches saying no, you got to understand people are going to tell you no at this particular point because, one, you don't have an open job. 2, they're not going to tell you what they're interested in while they're in midseason. If you think Matt Campbell's going to come out and tell you that he's not interested in a job, he's trying to get his team ready for a Big 12 championship and maybe a run. Believe it or not, people were talking about it. Maybe a run at a CFP if it works out right, because I think they moved them up like 5 spots in this last poll.
7.
They're number 7. So if everything aligns right, man, there's a possibility that because of the craziness of the schedule, we've seen what conferences are doing at this particular point. Let's change the rules because we need to get one of our people in. It would not surprise me if Iowa State went in there and beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship and they beat them, handily. It would not surprise me if, again, a lot that's going to go into to making sure picking these 4 teams is going to be eye test. I think the worst thing that Iowa State currently has going for them is that what is it, the Louisiana, the Law Tech or whatever who it was, the University of Louisiana game that they lost would probably be Lafayette. Yeah, is a bad.
But they've always said that it's better to lose early than lose late. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they have a chance. And again, nobody in that echelon. And again, I want to know what the definition of unrealistic coaches is at the University of Texas. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
I get it. Folks are under contract. I get it that the current coach is under contract. But what makes you think, unless you're the guy writing the checks and you're the guy writing the contract, that a name is unrealistic at this point? Because again, this is the most lucrative program in college football. That hasn't changed. That's the same. In a non-COVID year, Clint asked me earlier this year, I think the money on the stadium expansions, the fact that it was a COVID year, that people had lost their jobs, absolutely not. I don't think it's a thing, because we want to win. We have not won since 2009. And if they feel like the current coach cannot get them to where they need to go, and again, I hearken back to, yes, he's the same guy that got you 3 top 10 recruiting classes. He's got you the top 5 blue chip ratio in the country, but he hasn't won a championship with them, not a conference title. And so I don't know, but I would venture to say maybe Andy knows more than we do. I doubt he does. He may be tied in the program more than we are, but I just want to know why he believes that folks on this list are unrealistic, and who the unrealistic guys are.
Sean, I won't agree with you, but I'll kind of disagree with you. Sean's talking about this is also the hardest and most stressful job in college football. I think any program that is under as much scrutiny as Texas would be USC, Alabama's, the Ohio States. Let Georgias, the Tennessees, the Nebraskas. Those jobs are tough, and going into those jobs making $5.7 million a year, that it's going to be a tough job. If I'm making $5.75 million a year to be the coach of the University of Texas, I already know what stress comes with that.
Exactly. And that's why, Andy, I asked you a question. I asked you who you thought was who was unrealistic. And your answer was money isn't everything. Y'all think y'all can whip big names and just come and be a coach is ignorant. Again, I asked you a question. You want to give me your part. Tell me who you think that we've named is unrealistic. Because me and Clint have not said anything other than what everybody else is saying. That's names. That's names and sources.
Again.
I've not mentioned Shanahan.
I don't think I've mentioned Shanahan
Shanahan's
either.
not been on our list.
I'm going to ask the 125 people out there. Now I'm going to ask 125 people out here. If you have not hit that button yet, hit that button. Hit that like button. Currently, I think we have 124 people watching. There's 36 people here. And he's saying Andy is a Texas A&M fan. Fantastic. And we like these individuals coming to the show. We do. Andy, please hit that like button. We like it. Hey, and I'm not going to say much about him. If he is a Texas A&M fan, I'm not going to say much about them. Hey, they're ranked number 5 right now. You paid Jimbo Fisher $75 million for 10 years. And the worst thing about that guy's contract is if he doesn't take you to a championship in the first 6, you still owe him those 4 years of all that money. There is no subletting that buyout. You owe him everything you possibly can. Does Texas put themselves in that situation? I'm not sure at this particular point. I want people to tell me that these guys that are sitting here, keep Herman around here, I want them to tell me that they're out of all the coaches, 128 college football coaches in what we consider Division I football, right? I want you to tell me that Tom Herman is a top 10 coach. That you're telling me there's 9 coaches out there that aren't better than Tom Herman. Because that's what I keep hearing. If you can't get the unrealistic guy like Andy's saying, right? Keep Tom Herman. But what's the difference between unrealistic and where Tom Herman sits on that list of coaches? Because it feels like if you don't get, I'm gonna name them: Saban, Sweeney, Urban,
Kelly,
Mullen, or Kelly, right? Or Jimbo Fisher, then you just hang it up and say, well, I guess we'll just deal with Herman, who happens to be the 1, 2, 3, I named 5 people, right? The 6th best coach. How does that work out? That's what I don't get in this situation. Everybody that says, well, if we don't get these guys, we might as well stick with Herman. We already, to me, Herman's an 8-win guy. And you proved me wrong on that. It took him 14 games to get to 10 wins. I see him at the most 8 wins because he's going to somehow mismanage a few games throughout the season that's not going to allow him to go undefeated. It's just the way it is right now. He said he was whooping up on OU at Houston, laugh out loud. He can't beat Oklahoma. Now he's 1-3 at Texas with better talent.
You said 1-3 is 1-4.
Oh yeah, if you count the.
I don't mean to correct you.
No. If you count
I'm just trying to figure it out, man. Like I said, we're not cheerleading either way. Like I really don't feel. We just tell it how it is. And I really felt like, again, Clint probably talked about this when I won't call out my cable service or where I get my internet from, but because I feel like I kind of fought when Colleen was setting me back up. I felt like I was listening to the show a little bit. Clint talked about it. When we started this program in June, we felt like this was the year for Texas to compete for Big 12 championships. You lost to TCU. You lost to Iowa State at home. And you lost to a freshman quarterback who got pulled out of the game for a quarter and a half. You benched. You had the senior quarterback, and you still found a way to lose that football game. with the top 5 blue chip ratio. All we're talking about is facts, man. He cost you the Iowa State game because he called a fake punt and took points off the board, which cost you a chance to compete for a Big 12 championship. All we're saying is we thought we had a Big 12 championship caliber team. If you disagree with that, go ahead and let me know. I'm sure you don't. And the reason why you're not playing in that game is because of your head football coach. And if he stays around for another year, they may win, like Clint said, eight or 9 games. But the 2022 commitment class, the 22 high school football players have shown you they're not coming to this university. And yeah, like somebody said earlier, Iowa State's beating you, and they don't have 17th ranked recruiting classes. So I don't know. Like I said, at this point, we don't know who's coming. We don't know if he's going. What we don't know is that nobody said no, and nobody said no, and nobody said that he's definitely coming back. And we really appreciate the $21 that folks just gave us.
Yes, yeah. So I'll go. Gold Coast Vlogs, man. I see you on Twitter. I definitely see you on Twitter. He's always got some either he'll send out a tweet or we'll retweet some stuff or like or whatever the case may be. So go Coast Vlogs. I definitely seen you. Thank you for your dollar there, man. We really do appreciate it. Absolutely. Let me go down here, man. Gamer's Life. Gamer's Life said he was doing some business earlier. He must just got off work and he's excited about whatever happened. He said my credit card gives me $20 a month credit with super chats. It's y'all's help make this channel better. And we probably should have did this before the show, man. Rest in peace to Coach Akers. Passed away this week, man. Definitely a loss to the University of Texas program. And it's so we definitely want to say rest in peace to Coach Fred Akers at this particular point. And he should have won a national championship in the 80s. And then our number 17 class again should win a conference championship or compete for a conference championship. Beat one.
And when I was talking about the schedule in the losses, somebody brought up a great point, Hunter. I think this is the first time I've seen you. You may have been on before. You nearly lost to Texas Tech. It took you a 15-point comeback with 2 minutes to go and an onside kick to be able to beat Tech, who, again, is not a very good football team this year. TCU is not a very good football team this year. Oklahoma State, at the time we played them, had dudes opting out and dudes suspended. You know, their defensive line was suspended. Their top running back was suspended. They were starting redshirt freshman quarterback. You lost to Iowa State because you put yourself in the position to lose the game when you had the game won. And Rod B said it today. He said this team is the only team that has been within a touchdown for 92 or 93% of the season and found a way to lose 3 football games. They have led or been within a touchdown for 93% of this football season and found a way to lose 3 football games. The only team in the country to have that experience, because teams that are ahead 90% of the time don't lose 3 football games.
It's crazy because, and again, we're not, hell, you can't root for any particular person at this point because I have no clue where it's going to go. I think where I feel comfortable, the most comfortable at, and it keeps being brought up on here, I think where I feel the most comfortable at is with Chris Del Conte as our athletic director. I really do. I feel like silence is best at this particular point. Yes. Silence is best. It tells you where your head coach is. It tells you where your head coach is at this particular point. But I think, honestly, people have asked me, so I'm going to tell you something. The narrative belongs to Chris Del Conte and those 6 individuals that he's talking to at this particular point. Somebody asked me, because all these rumors started coming out about Urban Meyer. I don't like to go back to this. There are all these rumors and stuff coming out. I said, there's got to be less than 10 people that are involved in this situation. And they're going to leak the information they want out. They're going to leak stuff out so they can control the narrative. Everybody understands he's a psychology major, right? He's going to leak a narrative out that he wants people to go down. To me, if I'm a head coach coming to the University of Texas, let me tell you how I'm going to do it, right? You hire me. While I'm in talks with CDC, I'm going to link information to all of those paid media sites. I'm going to leak all the information to you because I'm going to discredit you before I stepped up to that. I'm going to discredit you as a site before I step up to that podium. I'm going to leak out so much false information that by the time I walk up to that presser, each and every time I get on there on Mondays, I've already discredited who you are. Now I run the program. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, just Sal said it perfectly. Bottom line, Texas does not have the coaching advantage with Herman. If you have the number 5 blue chip ratio, if the guys you have brought in, and they're his guys, he's brought them in. This is his 4 recruiting classes, right? From the senior down to the freshman, these are all his guys. Again, we talked about it before. He chose to fire his group of assistant coaches and bring in a new set his 4th year, which is essentially how I see it. This year is his contract year. Decisions you made. If this is the top 5 roster in the country, the only thing that could get you beat is coaching, unless you're playing the Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio States, and Clemson's, those 4 that are ahead of you. And then you have a reason. You know what I mean? Like, they have better athletes, or supposedly better athletes. But Oklahoma's not on that list. Iowa State's not on that list. TCU's not on that list. Gary Patterson beat you. Matt Campbell beat you. And Lincoln Riley beat you. And they've consistently beat you year after year after year. And somebody said it again. It takes you 50 to 48 to beat Kansas last year. It takes you an onside kick and a 15-point comeback to beat Texas Tech this year. It should be easier than that.
And again, D. Taylor, there's nothing. D. Taylor's talking about maybe Texas is just an 8 or 9 win football team, and there's nothing wrong with winning 8 or 9 games consistently year after year after year after year. But some of those years, you're going to have to compete for a Big 12 championship, and you're going to have to compete for a national championship. And 8 wins is not going to get you there. Not in the Big 10, no, in the Big 12, because you played 9 teams outside of yourself. So if you play 9 teams outside of yourself, you're not going to be able to get to where you need to with an 8-win season. You're not. And be able to compete with the SECs and SEC West and SEC East in the Big 10, the caliber of programs they have up there right now, you're not going to be able to compete with that. But again, there's nothing wrong with having 8 or 9 wins consistently over time. But when you're not at 8 or 9, 10 wins, you're going to have to shuttle out a undefeated season with a team at some particular point if you're going to win a national championship. So my question to you is Tom Herman a 8 ceiling guy, or can you see him taking this program to hell, not even a national championship, but do you see him taking Texas and winning a Big 12 championship? Because again, at the end of the day, if Tom Herman's still sitting in that seat at the end of this year, and he takes that team into the spring practice, the offseason, going into the spring, into the fall, me and Jeremy are going to sit here and we're going to talk about the same thing. We're going to talk about who's going to be starting at center, who's going to be starting at left tackle, who's going to be doing all these other things. Then we're going to run down who the schedule is. None of that's going to change. None of that's going to change if he does stick around. The only thing that really changes this particular point, how do you pick up your recruiting class? Because nobody trusts the process. Nobody trusts the process with Tom Herman. You cannot try to sell the same bill of goods 3-4 years in a row, and those things aren't coming true because eventually people are going to get tired of, Texas takeover. Texas is coming back. Texas on your front and your name on your back. That's only going to work for so many recruits that are loyal to the state of Texas. Everybody else is going to shoot up north or east or west, wherever they decide to go. I seen that. Looked up. No,
I don't know what they want me to do with J. Paul. I don't. But I don't want him cursing at him, so I just mute him for a little while.
Andy Arena, he said it's
that button. I let people talk. Go ahead.
It's crazy to me how bad the Big 12 has been to let OU completely own that conference from top to bottom every year. Yeah, it's a sad situation. It is a sad situation. And I think we would not be here right now if we didn't think that this team was talented enough to beat Oklahoma this year. This team should have beat Oklahoma this year. This team should have beat Iowa State at home this year. This team should have beat a terrible TCU. This team should not have been an onside kick away from losing to Texas Tech. It just goes on and on and on and on and again. And I don't know how people don't see that. You did not change your offense. For those people that keep going in on these offensive defensive coordinators, you did not change your offense. And Chris Ash, progression-wise, progressed the defense over the season. But as far as the offense, that was the same power spread offense that Tom Herman has been running. The only thing was different were route trees that they're running, and that's wide receivers. Nothing's changed. It was the same thing. That's why I stepped away from press conferences each and every week. I stopped listening to them after to the 4th week because it's the same excuses over and over and over again. None of these other people are making excuses. These teams are winning football games. Everybody's had a COVID. Hell, David Aranda his whole staff is brand new at Baylor.
Did I miss that? Hang on real quick. I want to stop you real quick because something caught my eye. Did Tom Herman, I mean, we know that he doesn't accept any blame for anything that happens, right? It's always the new systems and not having the spring ball and blah, 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 blah. We talked about this lack of accountability all year long. But did he really blame Dicker for not having the correct read on a fake punt that should have never been called? Daniel, please send me that. Like, was that during a press conference, or did he say that in an interview to somebody else? Because that kid should have never been put in that situation. Number one. So yeah, I'd like to see that. They said keep Jay Paul around. Go ahead.
I was about to say something. And Sean's talking about, honestly, like offseason under Yurcich and Ash, Texas went big. I have no problem with the coordinators we have. I honestly do not have a problem with any of the coordinators outside your offensive line coach and maybe your wide receiver coach. Everyone else on that staff at this particular point, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you talking about what they've done at the linebacker position, what the defensive line looks like. I think another offseason with Chris Ash and Jay Belay with that secondary is going to make leaps and bounds. I have no problem with Chris Ash and Mike Yurcich. I think it's the best offensive coordinators we've brought in since we've been here, but they're not your game manager. Your head coach is your game manager. He's the one that makes the decisions to go for a fake punt on your 40-yard line when your defense has held them to 3 consecutive field goals.
Yep.
He's the one that decides to go from 4th and 1 instead of kicking a field goal to make them go down and drive to score a touchdown to at least take it to overtime. They're not the game managers. He is. So how do you change that? Because he's going to pull out the binder. That binder's not going anywhere. He is who he is.
And that's why you ask your kicker, who's your kickoff guy, who's now become your punter, to also play quarterback and be able to pick Roshan on a deep slant route and not dump it down to Kate Brewer. Crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you're bringing the tenacity tonight. Because, yeah. Herman needs to go.
And again, I love this team, man. I love the players, man. And you got, what I can't see is I can't see us going down the road next year where you've literally waited 9 games to watch Bijan Robinson run for 150 yards and watch Roshan Johnson run for 150 yards. I watched that game today, man. That's probably the most fluid that Sam's looked as far as passing the ball, you know? And I know this is a terrible Kansas State team. I just know there's too much talent on this team. And I don't think, and somebody said up here, let these guys have an off season. In my heart of hearts, I ain't gonna lie to you. And I believe burnt orange. Chris Ash and Mike Yurcich coming back and having these guys for a spring and a fall doesn't make your team win a Big 12 championship next year, especially with Spencer Rattler going into his sophomore year the way he looks right now and the way that defense is playing at Oklahoma. It's your year was this year, and unfortunately it didn't happen, and it's because of poor game management.
No, and I don't like how this – please go back and watch our program. For guys who are new and recently subscribed to our channel over the last couple of weeks, please go back and watch our content September, October, where we're doing commitment corners and we're doing depth chart previews and understand that this show is about X's and O's. And unfortunately, over the last several weeks, it's dissolved into who's the next coach? Is the coach going to get fired? Because part of X's and O's is putting your players in the best positions to succeed. And why I feel like this channel has gone down this route is because we don't feel like that has been given to them over the last 4 or 5 games. So starting from TCU, Oklahoma again, we got out at Texas Tech with a win. I'm going to stop talking about that because folks are saying that if we can't get Urban, we're going to stick with this coach. And if that's the case, then eventually we got to figure it out. You gotta let your weapons be weapons, man. You gotta put them in the best position to make you ball players, and that's why I think Derek Kerstetter on Saturday for his versatility, because he allowed you to just make one change initially in the football game until he got hurt. But this was never a meritocracy. The best players sometimes didn't play, and that's all coaching for us. And again, Chan Man could say that if we don't get Urban, then we keep Herman, but I just don't know that's – we've talked about his mistakes ad nauseum, and it's not going to stop, man, because he cost these football players a chance to compete for a Big 12 championship. And what I will tell you is we were friends with a lot of football players' parents, and folks are talking about he lost his locker room. I'm not going to say that he lost his locker room, but the trust factor is not there. I will tell you that, point blank, bottom line up front, that this football team probably needs a different direction at this point. What you got, Clint?
He plays to not lose versus playing to win. That's in a nutshell. You cannot say any other way. He plays not to lose versus playing to win. He wants to play as an underdog with a non-underdog team. There's no way that you should be in this many close games each and every week. It's the close games. And when you're teetering on close games, 3 points or 7 points, that's a possession gone wrong. There's no reason that Sam Ehlinger should have to bring us back in 3 consecutive games in 4 quarters the way it did against the teams we were playing. So again, when all this coaching stuff, when CDC vets the people he wants to vet out, and he names a coach probably after January the 11th, right? Or maybe sooner, depending on when these people's, teams fall apart, and he's thrown a bunch of money at them and said, hey, do you want to come to the University of Texas and deal with BMDs and deal with crazy ass fans like us, that jump at every situation you can. There's going to be some takers, man. There's going to be some takers, and you're going to have to figure out on your list of coaches, is Tom Herman better than those guys, man? That's really it.
And I want to say that because a lot of folks, because Twitter's so easy, and folks who watch this show, I think misconstrue us sometimes. And if I'm wrong and talking for both of us, let me know, please. Our tenacity, our frustration, our passion doesn't come from dislike for Tom Herman. I heard Clint talking about this. We were big Tom Herman fans at the beginning of this year. I could, his fire, the fire that he had when he was young here in that, what I want to say was the 2018 year where we went to the Sugar Bowl. We beat Georgia. I felt like it was a program that was up and coming, and I had his back. But again, the angst, the fire, desire, passion of this program has nothing to do with hatred for Tom Herman, but want to win football games and feeling like that you have the talent to win football games and you're losing to what we feel is inferior teams. So we're not Tom Herman haters. We're not. We don't, because what folks have told us is we're 2 guys who have 1,300 followers or subscribers on this channel who are all Tom Herman haters, and I don't think that's the truth. What I think we are is folks that look at this program from an analytical perspective, watch the football games, every single one of them, and can figure out why this team is 7-3. And unfortunately, the reason why this team is or has potential to be 7-3 is not because of the football players on this football team, but because of decisions we made in the coaching ranks. And again, I'm not a Tom Herman hater. I'm a Tom Herman lover at the beginning of the year, but I got to call it what it is, what I've seen objectively, but not cheering against him. Just want what's best for these 115 guys who blood, sweat, and tears put on that football gear and have to listen to guys like us and folks that write like us and talk like us about them when we don't feel like they've been put in the best circumstance to be able to reach their full potential.
Chan Man V, I'm frustrated too, but at this point, it's what's prudent from the standpoint of replacement of money. And again, it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, is he the future? Because what happens is if he's not the future, you set yourself back in recruiting. Not just, again, you're having this 17 ranked class, phenomenal players on there. Me and Jeremy have talked to damn near a lot of them, and we think they're the greatest. You know,
and we just ran out of time. We ran out of time. Like,
and they went into
June.
Right? They went into football season.
Their seasons, and we were going to bother them after that.
But it's 2022 is your concern at this particular point. It's probably the most talented class to come out of the state of Texas in probably the last 10 to 20 years. If you keep Tom Herman around and he is unsuccessful, you've blown that 2022 class, and you've probably blown that 2023 class. So you've already put yourself back 3 years based on what his future is right now. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to put yourself back 3 years after 2 years after next year? And the coach that after CDC does his vetting is that coach that he may or may not choose better than Tom Herman on a list of coaches. That's what it really comes down to. Because I think sometimes too, they're talking about Jeff Traylor, you know, him being a Texas guy and the Texas high school football. I think that matters. What really matters is respect. Dude, is someone that Texas bring in garner the respect of the Texas high school football coaches without even knowing them, based on rings and skins on the wall and everything else you bring to the program. Because they'll fill up that high school, you know, coaches association room for a good coach. They will. But it's just sad because I think Mike Yursich and Chris Ash and these guys they brought in currently right now are really, really, really are the best coordinators we've brought in a long time. Somebody brought up a point the other day. Hey, what if you fire Tom Herman and you just put Stan Drayton on an interim contract for a year? Make him interim coach for 1 year to stop the bleeding. But the problem is, there's still going to be questions out there. Who's going to be the next coach? Who's not going to be the next coach?
All right.
From a recruiting standpoint. And so I think that would hurt you as well. But you would hate to lose these guys, man. But you just never know who a coach is going to bring in. Are they going to you know, fire, terminate, get rid of the coaches that are currently on the staff? And I think these guys have done a really, really good job. Yeah, Quinn Ewers hit that 1,000 rating. I didn't want to look at it, but he did. He back up there. The number one consensus. Every one of them polls, man. I actually sent him a congratulations today on one of his. I think he tweeted out something that Hayes Fawcett I think sent out, and I just sent him a congratulations. Good congratulations, man. Green Valley 6. Clint, stop stealing my lines. Laugh out loud. I apologize, Green Valley 6, for that. Josh Hadley, CDC is far more qualified to make that determination than any of us fans. I have trust that he will bring in a winner. Absolutely. Again, that's what it comes down to me.
That's why I think him being silent, like you said, I think there's 10 guys that really, really know. And again, you talked about Urban being a psychology major, and I think the timing is everything. Like, I think there's rationale for leaking out that he's not interested in December, that he may be interested in January. I'm not saying that's a thing. But again, we're not cheerleading for anybody. We don't know anything other than what people feed us. But I do think there's something there, and I think CDC is the guy to figure it out. And like I said, if you just can't find like Clint said, I think it's a simple question you got to ask yourself. You got to rack and stack them. That's a military term. And figure out who is attainable, because guys on here say that folks aren't attainable. Figure out who those guys are, and then ask yourself, where do you see this program? Are they going to make us better in that 2022 class? Because again, 2021, I think it's already gone. Are they talent developers? Where do you see this team? Where do you see your roster? How are you going to develop that roster and just pretty much rack and stack them against Tom Herman? Because again, that's a hard check to write that me and Clint aren't writing. You guys aren't writing that $25 million check or that $15 million check. But CDC has a good idea where he's going.
If you haven't hit that like button, there's 121 people watching right now. If you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. I think we're currently at 54 people. We've actually had 3 thumbs down, which is I think the most we've ever had in a live. Not a bad situation to be in. I think we actually reached our pinnacle where our record tonight. I think we had 137 people on at one particular point.
Nice.
It's crazy the growth that we've had, and we appreciate it, man. Because we just, again, sitting up here, I I didn't know how this was going to go. I knew it was going to be about sources and knew it was going to be about coaches. Nobody cares particularly about what's going on at Kansas. We could sit up here and talk about Texas going to Kansas. We could sit here and talk about COVID, but nobody cares about that stuff at this particular point. It's all about this source said this and this source said this and this coach is out and this one's out and this one's out and this one's out. But really, it just comes down to what's going to happen here probably over the next, what's today, the 9th? I would say a month. Give it a month. I'm telling you, one good month, and I don't think people are going to be upset with it at the end game. I don't think anybody's going to be upset. I really don't think it's going to turn out as bad as what the hype is right now. I really don't. All right, Jeffrey Zuniga.
I don't either.
Jeffrey Zuniga is talking about, what makes me angry, what aspect, way more from a coach. We expect more from a coach. When people don't realize there was no practice or spring games for the new coaches. What do we expect? National title? No, I expect to beat Iowa State, TCU, Texas Tech handily. And we did expect to beat Oklahoma this year just based on our talent advantage alone. No national championships. Make it to a Big 12 championship, man. Make it to a Big 12 championship.
I had us playing in the CFP and getting beat by Clemson. If you go back and watch our season previews, I had us losing to Texas or TCU, but that was in the full non-conference and slate before COVID kind of took the year from us. I had one loss to TCU because it was at the time, as the schedule laid out, it was the 9th game in a row without a bye. And I always know Gary Patterson, he showed it this year, has Tom Herman's number. But then I had us winning the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma and playing Clemson in the CFP and losing to them. But at least you're competing. You're up in that where we felt the team should be.
K-Man said, I hope you guys are right. I can't say I have a ton of confidence in CDC either right now, just given how he's handled all of this so far this season. There's not much he could do. What is he's either going to fire him in midseason or he's not going to say anything at all. And I think silence is best at this particular point. What is he going to say? What can he particularly – he can't come out and say, oh, we've been looking at Urban Meyer. We've been looking at these people. There's not a job opening. All this stuff is happening in the shadows. He can't you can't speak to those things. So there's really nothing.
What you haven't seen him do is come out and say Tom Herman's the coach of the 2021 Texas Longhorns. That's what you haven't seen him do.
That's significant.
That's what I'm saying.
Very significant.
The things that we do know is that, again, in we'll take him off the table. I won't promise that we won't talk about him until the date that we were given that he may be reapproached. But what I will say is, what you do know is the athletic director has not come out and said that the current head coach is going to be the head coach for 2021. What you have seen, if you look at Tom Herman's body language when he has to answer questions from reporters on Monday, when you watch him do his radio show with Craig Way on Thursday, he's not very comfortable in his own skin right now. He's not comfortable with the questions that he's asked. He's not comfortable with talking game plan. I don't know. I would never want to say that the decision's been made to fire him, because it obviously hasn't been, because they haven't made that announcement either. But that we do know that the athletic director has not come out and said that Tom Herman is, and he should do that. If he feels that way, he should do that, because that would help him solidify the 2021 recruiting class. Just my thoughts.
Rewind just came on. Tom Herman sitting up here, I guess from his, I don't know, his office or his office at his home or something. He's talking about rewind. That shit needs to go away too at this particular point. All those things that take the coach away from doing what they need to during the season, like rewind and fast forward and all those other shows that they have on the HN. He's got to go away. Hey, what's going on, Ben Reason, man? Hey, we don't see you on. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
We don't see you on here very much, Ben. So go ahead.
And love Ben. Ben's been counting our stuff from the very beginning. But Jeffrey's right above him with that comment of let Tom work with the new coaches first. I was on your side, Jeff, until your head coach started costing this team football games. Like again, you can't use the virus because nobody had a spring ball. Nobody had a summer camp. He chose to bring coaches in during a pandemic and flip his coaching staff. And again, he wants to tell you there's 3 new systems on this team. That's not the case. That's his power spread ran by the offense. Jay Boulware can only change so many things on special teams. Yes, I agree with you on the defensive side. So I was with you in the beginning of the year, but again, he cost these kids a chance to play for a Big 12 championship in my mind.
And I'm not going to put us in the same boat, but Alabama switches coordinators every year. Prior to really Sarkisian getting there, right? They would change coordinators each and every year. But the manager of that team, Nick Saban, has total control, and he is the one that makes the game managing decisions. Not the offensive defensive coordinator. He is the game manager. That's why he can rotate in and out of offensive defensive coordinators. It's his show. And if you're a game manager, CEO, coach, and talent level, yeah.
Chairman, let me help you. So you must have misheard me, bro. So this is in his 4th year, correct? He went from a 10-win team, Sugar Bowl championship team, and again, we were on the same fence, like Todd Orlando's defensive scheme, using Joe Tsai to guard against the pass and not put him in a 4-man front and blitz safeties and corners was an absolutely wrong philosophy. So you're absolutely right. Like, he didn't decide to flip them knowing there was a pandemic coming. And we didn't say that Tim Beck and Todd Orlando were the guys for the job. We have said over and over again, we think those hires were great, Mike Yusich and Chris Ash. What we did say is you can't continue to blame them and not blame yourself. You've never taken accountability. You want to say, I put in a new system here, I put in a new system there. The players, again, accountability for penalties. Like, we were the most penalized team through the first 5, 6, 7 weeks. Pre-snap penalties for greater than 100 yards every week. Like, that's a coaching problem, man. Like I can't picture what we said through the first 100 times we've talked about it. But we've talked about this stuff week to week. And again, like I said, you can pick apart what we say, but yeah, he didn't decide to change them because of the pandemic, but he chose to change them, use them as a scapegoat in his 3rd year as the head football coach, knowing that his butt was probably in the hot seat because he saw his team regress. I don't know any other way to say it.
I don't either. And it's going to be a revolving narrative in conversation over and over and over again. This is probably going to be the meat and potatoes of every one of our lives at this particular point until either Tom Herman is told he's going to stay by Chris Del Conte, or they get a new coach, and then we go into winter workouts into spring ball next year, man. That's kind of where this is at. This is where every conversation is at right now. If you go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, you go to all these things, Texas football fans, you got, I would say 30% of them want to keep Tom Herman around if they can't get Urban Meyer because they think no other coach is as good as those two, right? That's because that's what I take away from it. If you keep Tom Herman here, you're telling me that there's no other better coaches outside of Urban Meyer and Tom Herman. The Tom Herman is your number 2 guy. And I think that's wrong. So I think Chris Del Conte, we have a great, I'm going to say great athletic coordinator out there. I think he's going to do his due diligence on what he believes is best for the school. And the decision he makes next is I hate to say it, even with the good coaches he's got at the basketball level and the baseball teams and all those guys.
Baseball, softball, volleyball.
This next decision that Chris Del Conte makes, he knows is going to be his biggest decision he's made since he's been at the University of Texas. So he's going to do his due diligence. He's going to make sure he does his research. I'm pretty sure it's already being done. And he's going to try to bring the best coach that he possibly can to the University of Texas. If he decides to get away from Tom Herman, that's just the bottom line with it. His job is on the line with this coaching hire.
Yeah.
It's
I'm tired of X's and O's is our thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, we love talking game plan and analysis of football games. But this is it, man.
Talking recruiting,
talking to recruits, analyzing game film, talking about strengths and weaknesses of their team versus our team, and offense versus defense versus offense. And this show has turned into fire or keep. And then if you fire, who. But like I said, 6 months ago, I would have never thought, and it's pretty much the 6-month anniversary of us starting this podcast, about our 110th show. This is where we're at. But it's cool. Like you say, somebody set up above, they love the passion for the program that we have for the program. And there's no doubt the 112 guys and earlier the 137 guys who were watching this show agreed with the same thing. We might disagree on who the in-state coach should be. We might disagree on what the depth chart should look like. We may disagree on what the scheme should look like, but it's all passionate fans talking Texas football, and this is the reason why we started this. I just wish that that we didn't feel like we were boxing the corner to be on this side or that side. We're just giving you our analysis, man, what we see. And it's never been, like I said earlier, that we're cheerleading for this guy or we're rooting against this guy. All we tell you is what we felt like the roster looked like, position by position, championship level, not national, but probably conference, and we just didn't make it. And that's what's kind of driven this narrative that we've had over the last couple of weeks. But I appreciate everybody watching and their passion.
Absolutely, man. And I enjoy getting the laughs out of the GIFs currently on Twitter in the source talk. And this is what's going to happen to the next coach and who's going to be the hottest coach. Today it was Jeff Traylor. He ran Twitter. He ran Longhorn Nation Twitter today was Jeff Traylor. I'm trying to figure out who it's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be another day tomorrow, and it's going to be fun to watch. And then people are going to have a meltdown. Oh my God, I can't believe we're looking at this coach. And I think right now it's just it's where we're at. Jesse talking about HIPAA got in tonight, got some PT tonight. We watched that too. We were surprised when he came on the court. I think they won by, I can't remember what they won by.
Said.
21, man. Got a good basketball team, man. Got a good Baylor. Got a game against Baylor this weekend, man. Number 2 team in the nation.
What I really love is because normally football and basketball don't really leak into each other in conference. But your first conference game against the number 2 team in the country is on Sunday. So you don't have to split if the game gets played with Kansas, we hope it does. Chance for this team to get another win, go to 7-3, to get some probably inexperienced players out there, probably more time for Casey Thompson. We'll probably get to the 2s and 3s on the depth chart, get them some game experience, which is probably what we'll talk about Friday, hopefully. Hopefully we talk about, who we hope to see, what we saw last week. Again, you're going to get a heavy dose of number 5. You're going to get a heavy dose of number 2. I think you're going to see the short passing game by Sam. I think you're going to see 4 and 7 back on the field with 6 and 13. The offensive weapons are out there. Let's put a lot of stuff on film. And again, you scored 69 points against Kansas State. I think you could get up in the 80s against Kansas if you really wanted to. But I'm excited that those 2 games are on the same day. Saturday we'll watch Texas and Kansas and do a post-game show and have a chat live again, and then Sunday we'll get ready for Texas and Baylor, the number 13 team in the country versus the number 2 team in the country.
Football talk, man. I mean, coach talk, man. Y'all keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on the swivel. Know who your sources are, and know who, and be wary of what you hear. Honestly, I hate to say it. It's just kind of where it is right now. Those guys. Let me tell you. The good thing about what they call their PR people, they're good at leaking the information that they know you don't want to hear. All right. So just keep your head on a swivel. Look at who the sources
Everybody
are.
Wants to be the first one to put that out too, so they get them clicks.
Yeah, exactly what it is.
We call clickbait all the time, man.
All the time. Yeah. So, but I give it a couple of weeks, man. Like I said, I think this is what's going to run the lives from this particular point. Hopefully it closes out pretty soon. But we appreciate you listening as always, man. I just wanted to get on here tonight. We were going to do it last night. Cowboys played because I knew we needed to have this conversation because it's the whirlwind tour at this particular point. Again, whatever decision they make, we're going to go with the team and we'll figure it out from there, man. We're going to talk about who should play at cornerback and who should play at safety and who should play at middle linebacker. And it's kind of where it is, man. We're going to support the team.
Talk about our process of tech. Our process of tech. They're talking a lot about that. People want to win, man. They don't want to be in the basement of a Power 5 conference. They don't. And sometimes you let guys like you freeze back in. You let guys like Urban Meyer, coach the penultimate of football teams because, yeah, everybody's probably got skeletons in their closet, either discovered or undiscovered, so I don't know. We'll see. But you want to give the plug? Yeah, that Cowboys run defense is bad, by the way. Oh my gosh.
Just a couple of things. Cody Phillips, did Urban just dangle the idea of him coaching us to make Herman feel that you did say he was a psychology major. He's a psychology major. He's smart, man. Like off the charts smart. You want to win, put Booby in, man. Boy, I love me some Friday Night Lights. Love me some Friday Night Lights, man. Let's go get that coach and bring Booby with him.
Yeah, I was disappointed. 247 ran a poll, and all you guys talked about Clinton Jeremy for coach of the Texas Longhorns over the last couple of months, and we didn't get not one vote. But Bud Kilmer from Varsity Blues got a vote on 247's poll to be the next coach of the Texas Longhorns. We would have took Clint or Jeremy, or Clint and Jeremy. None of us got a vote. No, all tongue in cheek, man. I appreciate you guys for watching us.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, man, yeah, absolutely. There's 104 people watching right now. If you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. If you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you listening as always. You can find us on Twitter at TX Football Talk. We're always there. We got Twitter fingers. We enjoy the back and forth. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk. You can find us on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. We appreciate you listening as always. We'll see what happens with this Texas-Kansas game, and then we'll have a Baylor-Texas basketball game on Saturday as well. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. We will talk to you soon. Y'all have a good night, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.